Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Shooting the Breeze. I am one of your main men, Soda, Matt Majo, however you want to call me. And as usual, I am joined by Ben Rayner. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm not going into details. I'm feeling a lot better than I was this time last week.
Perfect.
Today we have on a very special guest, one of our good friends over from one of our other shows on this channel. She's quite sweaty. It is none other than Sol Golvin. How are you doing, Sol?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing great. It's a little bit later for me over here on the East Coast, but I'm here to talk about just all the random things that we end up talking about. I'm ready to be on this show. This show is where tangents can go, and I'm ready for it.
Well, right on. Well, you know what? Let's might as well hop into it. What we like to do, Sol, is we like to get the guests to reveal the topic that we start off with. So if you wouldn't mind taking it away.
Well, one thing that I think all of us have gotten obsessed with lately, especially me rewatching the movies and the show, it's Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, in that vein. So we're going to be talking about not just Cobra Kai, but reboots in general and how there's some good reboots out there, there's some bad reboots, there's some good continuations, bad continuations, and so that's the discussion today.
All right. Well, let's just start off with what to you makes a good reboot. Not what's an example, but what do you need to make a good reboot?
I think it needs to be one, respectful of the source material. So where did the source material end? And what is the reason why everyone loves that source material? And to not go in and, like, let's say, take a character and change that character if they're and make it where it's you don't think that's where a logical place that character would go, or that's it needs to be logical forward of movement of the story. So I guess going to the example of like Cobra Kai, that when you watch the Karate Kid and you see Danny LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, they are very black and white. That's good guy, bad guy. But you go into Cobra Kai and it shows the gray areas of both of these characters, but it's a logical continuation of where these characters would go. It's not anything that your mind has to go like, well, this is super different from what they would have been if in their original stories, because Danny's still Danny and Johnny's still Johnny in Cobra Kai. So I guess you said not to use an example, but I used one anyways, breaking the rules. Matt, you went.
Matt.
I think you went silent for a
Sorry,
little.
I muted myself so I could cough. No, I was gonna say no. It's perfectly in a way you couldn't do without using an example, and you're 100% right. Now, full disclosure, there will be spoilers for Cobra Kai season 3 on here, so just be warned if you haven't watched it, get off your ass. I was gonna say no. Like Ali said it perfectly when it comes to this particular show in general. Ali said it in her final appearance. There's Daniel's side, there's Johnny's side, and there's the truth. And that's the beauty about Cobra Kai is they explore all that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when there's a good reboot for you guys, what about season 1, episode 1? Was it good?
For me, it hooked me right off the bat. I thought it was one of the better reboots they've ever done.
Okay, for me,
go ahead, Ben, yeah.
It took me a few episodes. It took me until when they're filming camp, Daniel was a little too, what's the right word? To full of himself. But what he became Daniel, to put it politely, Daniel's son again, then I was hooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's funny that the roles of the societal roles are reversed in this Cobra Kai. Because if you think about it, or in the originally, Daniel is the poor kid on the wrong in Reseda. Johnny, well, it turns out he's not rich, but his stepdad's rich, so he's rich adjacent. You get to Cobra Kai, it's flipped around. Johnny is the one that lives in Reseda in the rundown hotels because he doesn't have much money, and Daniel is the one with all the money and the houses and stuff. It's very, very fascinating to see the roles flipped like that.
And funny, so I was recently listening to the Cinephiles episode that Roka, one of Roka's shows that he does out of his like 104 shows that he does, but that on the Karate Kid, and they were talking about Ali's parents and how Ali's parents look so down on Daniel
Mhm.
because he's a kid from Reseda and because they had to push the car to pop the clutch for it to go and things of
Yeah.
that nature, where they consoled Johnny after she punched him in the face, or they were like, "Oh, why don't you dance with Johnny?" And so I was like, what will her parents think now, where these two men ended up? That Daniel is actually living in Encino and is part of that country club, and Johnny, basically from where it started, was a drunk that lived in Reseda in a pretty like poor part of town in a poor apartment.
I know we don't really need it, but I wish that scene would have happened because as if you piece things together, her parents are still part of the same country club because Daniel is a part of it, and that's where they have their little powwows at this country club. So you know that the parents know that Daniel is now of their
Yeah.
standing. I wish we'd gotten that scene where they saw Johnny. I really do.
Yes. I wish that there was a scene just like would when she's there, I wish her parents were behind her too to be like,
Yeah,
"Daniel." Like to just like kind of like, "Oh, you're here." Or if it could have even been like even if they never got Elizabeth Shue, they could have had her parents could be in like even like in a season 1 when he's at the country club.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
"Oh,
That's right.
hi, Mr. and Mrs." I forget what Allie's last name is.
Mills.
Mills. "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Mills." Like, I kind of I just thought about that, but they could have introduced them, like, as,
Yeah,
like, side characters for, like, an episode when they were at the country club and his, son was being a brat, like, on his,
yeah.
like, "Give me a soda."
I never thought about that, but that would actually been pretty cool. It would have been a nice throwaway line that
Yeah.
you have to have been a fan to have gotten it. But I mean, yeah, it would have been perfect. So we've got Cobra Kai, and now we've also got Saved by the Bell. I don't know if have you watched Saved by the Bell, the reboot?
Episodes here and then. I am a little bit younger than you guys, so for me, Saved by the Bell was more of what rerun episodes were on after
Yeah.
school when I came. So I've seen a few out of order.
Oh, it's okay. I watched them all. We've watched them out of order because nobody knows what the proper order is of fucking idiots. I'm sorry. That's one thing I'm going to be railing about probably for the rest of my life is whoever did the order on any form of entertainment could go fuck themselves. But that's because yeah, Ben knows exactly how I feel about that. It was frustrating because if you look on Hulu, it's 4 seasons. However, I have 5 seasons on DVD. Figure that one out.
Mm,
But that is also considered one of the more successful reboots, and I do have to agree on that one for the most part. It is one of the better made ones, but that's another one where they regressed some of the characters, in my opinion, for the sake of the story. Because we all know the internet meme now that Zach Morris is trash, right?
yeah, yeah,
While they leaned heavily into that with Zach Morris in the reboot, partially because one of the writers is the guy who did the Zach Morris's trash videos. Now, rewatching the series for our other show, you see Zach grow up and mature, and you see that he's got like all these good person tendencies inside that could surface. You get to the revival, he's a fucking Donald Trump wannabe almost. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
not what the Trump we have, but the Trump of old mythology. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like on Trump that gets on the first
Yeah, exactly. The Trump that
And the Trump in Home Alone too.
the Trump from The Apprentice, pretty much. That's what we got with Zach Morris. And I mean, when we last left him off at the end at the wedding movie, that wasn't who Zach Morris was. Personally, I think it's a dumb idea to do that, but that's just me.
And I think this is something too that I think with a reboot you have to keep the fans in mind, but I don't think you should. I'm gonna be very controversial. Get me on Ben's hot takes. Goes, I don't think you need to listen to the fans. You need to do
No.
the story that you think is right. Because I think when you listen to the fans, you get, and now I'm gonna get even more controversial here, bringing up Star Wars. But I think one of the biggest problems with Rise of Skywalker and the fact that you have people on both sides of the Last Jedi argument, whether they like it or not liking Rise of Skywalker, is because they were like, we're going to listen to the fans
Mm.
and then basically undo almost everything that happened in The Last Jedi. So that made people who liked The Last Jedi go, fuck this movie. And then that made people, and then in doing that, they also didn't service what those people wanted, and so then they were like, "Fuck that movie." And I think a lot of times us as fans don't know what we want. We say,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is what we would like," or "This is what we would want," but when we're actually given something that's legitimately good, we're like, "Oh, I never thought of that. This is even
Yeah.
better than what I thought of." So I think if you're going to do a revival, because we know all network executives is watching this show, goes, I'm gonna say the hot take of don't actually listen to the fans because a lot of times we don't know what we want.
And you know what? I actually do agree with that. It is a very tricky line when it comes to fandom and stuff that has a very big, broad fandom. But the thing with the Saved by the Bell was I watched the reboot at the very beginning when we were doing our run through. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm actually enjoying what Zach Morris is doing and stuff like that. But watching the series back again, I find that they completely ignored all the progress that the character made, and they just honed in on what everybody remembers, which is the
Right.
Zach Morris's trash. Which I'm done no problem because Zach Morris will always do completely stupid things. That is who he is. But it's almost like they forgot who Zach Morris was. Like the trash part is just a
It would
little bit.
it would be like, let's say the people who created Cobra Kai, you know that video out there that Danny LaRusso is the actual
Yeah.
villain of Karate Kid. It would be like as if Cobra Kai started and Danny was like the actual villain of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that I think going on like an internet meme or going to what people say, because I think a lot of times it's a silent minority that is speaking out a
Yeah.
lot about certain things, and then people think, oh, because this is the only thing I'm seeing online, that they think that's the majority. When really, so I love what they did with Cobra Kai is
Me
that
too.
you have Danny is Danny and Johnny is Johnny, but they're great characters. They're human beings.
Yeah.
It's not a hero and a villain. And you get a little bit of that at the end of Karate Kid because I actually rewatched it before binging all 3 seasons. Is At the very end, Johnny hands him the trophy and says,
Yeah.
"You're all right, LaRusso." And so you see just a little spark of Johnny being an all right person. He just
Yeah.
has a very bad mentor. And even Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi was saying there's no bad student, there's only a bad teachers.
Mhm.
And you see that kind of like in Johnny's facial expression, like, you want me to do what? When uh Kreese says sweep the leg, or
Yeah.
you see it in his eyes in that fight and stuff that he doesn't actually want to harm Danny and that he actually has some good in him. And so then we now experience that watching Cobra Kai because he still says some like stuff
Oh,
that you're
some
like
racist shit, especially at the very beginning of the
at
series.
very beginning of the series. And so he still has growing to do. And
Yeah,
you see that
and
in the
leave it
show.
on in season 3 when he goes to the school and he confronts everybody, and as he's walking away, he smacks the books and like, sorry, old habit.
Yeah, sorry, old. Like there was one person, it was a joke like Johnny equals growth because of the first episode where he's like, uh, like this illegal here, Miguel, and like kind
Yeah.
of referencing like him being Mexican, and then in a later episode going, is someone calling him Mexican, and he's like, he's Ecuadorian, and so it's like Johnny Lawrence growth.
Yeah, and they're not wrong, and that is how you do a revival correct. Again, back to Saved by the Bell, it is a great revival. Do not get me wrong, but it's just like it's yeah, it's just there's something missing for me for the most part, and I get you need something to incite the whole incident, but it's just like don't forget that there is more to Zach Morris than just that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's almost like they made him from a great character to like very black and white. Now, don't get me wrong, that could change in season 2. It's just from the little sample I saw, I'm like, okay, I think they could do better.
Well, counter argument to that. I don't know if they knew they were going to get Zach for any other season. I think they were trying to get Mark for
Yeah,
up until they finally got him. And by that time, they only it was only going to be a sample size with Zach. So they were probably thinking, okay, what is the most Zach? How is the most? What does everyone want to see of Zach? What does everyone like the most? That's when they got the douchebag
You are right in that sense. However, I do think there's a little bit of pushback in there because I think they knew they were going to get Mark Paul Gosselaar no matter what, because the guy who I kept mentioning who's the writer or whatever does a podcast with Mark Paul Gosselaar, and they actually have become friends. So I mean, you were going to get Mark Paul no matter what.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
And honestly, you couldn't pitch and get it greenlit without those four characters attached somehow.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Now, for you two, what is an example that doesn't work when it comes to revivals?
Ooh.
Well, that's easy for me.
Ben, you go ahead.
And this is going to hurt you. Fuller House.
That's fine. I know that I am on an island of my own, that I am a big Full House mark.
Fuller House.
I enjoyed the first season of Fuller House. I have not seen past the first season.
And none really much else there. It's the same old schlock. But the reason why, you want to know something funny? I was 2 weeks old when that show debuted, so I literally grew up with Full House.
I know.
And the thing too is, like, for me, I watched. That was one of the reruns that was on a lot.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of Full House, like that. And what's weird too, like Boy Meets World, I think a bad one probably would be Girl Meets World. I've seen like 2 episodes of that, and I was like, I don't need to watch anymore, because I love Corey and Topanga from Boy Meets World, and I loved that story. And so, if anyone out there has seen Girl Meets World and it actually gets good, let me know.
And I have, but I'd say, Ben, you'd seen way more than I have, because I've actually seen the episodes where they brought back the legacy characters.
See, for me, the difference with Fuller House and Girl Meets World, that kid, the daughter, what's her name? Riley?
Yeah.
She feels like Chloe and Topanga's daughter. I see a little bit of Chloe and I see a little bit of Topanga. None of the kids on Fuller House feel like DJs or Kimmy's.
Well,
I'll agree with that a little.
I will throw back on the character of Max. You could tell he's Danny's grandson.
Yes,
little one?
Yes, that little
He's
one that
fucking
loves
Danny's grandson
cleaning.
to a T.
Yeah, he's Danny's grandson to a T.
Fine, I'm conceding on that.
But the other 2 kids, yeah, they're just. And the thing too, I guess, to push back, is like kids aren't always exactly like their parents, and we don't know who the father was like.
Yeah, that's true.
At least I don't know past the first season if that's explored more.
No.
I know in the first season, like, so they could be like their father and just not like her. So I don't know.
Yeah, like, I mean, there are some instances where they do say, oh, especially the older one, you remind me a lot of your dad or whatever. But I mean, they don't really explore it, just like the original never really explored their mom quite a bit. Like, there were episodes where they do talk about her. And especially, like, there's an episode, I can't remember what season it is in the original run, where Stephanie doesn't remember her mom, because when she died, she was like, what, 4?
Yeah.
I mean, they do explore like that, and they also do the same thing in Fuller House, because outside of the oldest, the Max doesn't know their dad, because it's the same thing. He was really young when the dad died. And they also explore that again with the mom. Spoilers. The very last episode is the triple wedding between Stephanie, DJ, and Kimmy, and the episode where they're trying to, and trust me, it was a lot of fun. But basically, there is an episode there where they're trying to find, the something borrowed, something blue, or whatever, and they're trying to find something from their mom, and Stephanie kind of breaks down. She's like, I don't have any memories of my mom. And they explore that, and then the final episode, the whole family goes to this restaurant, and then a memory starts. I'm just trying to well up thinking about a memory comes back to Stephanie about how after ballet class, mom would take you, me, and Michelle here, and we'd have I think it was a Sunday or whatever, and then they put on their mom's favorite song, and the whole group sings "Build Me Up, Buttercup."
That's cute.
Yeah,
I think probably in the fact of, if we're going to Fuller House too, that reboot was very gimmicky.
Because the very first episode was designed to be gimmicky.
Because if you look at the original show, you got Tanner and lost his wife, brings in his brother-in-law and best friend to come help him take care of his children. Goes, okay, getting to Fuller House. Oh, it just so happens that your daughter also
Yeah.
loses her spouse and then brings in her sister and best friend to come live to help. It's the exact same show, just now females instead of men. And so
Yeah.
it's very gimmicky in the sense that like it makes someone like when you hear about it, you're gonna roll your eyes, be like, this is the exact same show. It's not a full continuation of these characters.
Yeah.
Like they could have done all the stuff with Stephanie as a continuation when you find out I watched enough to know that like again spoiler that she's not able to have children.
Yeah.
So
And they
like
do a great job of that.
so like all of the things about the characters could have been explored and there still could have like not been the same exact situation of the original show
And
with
I
the
will
new
say,
show.
I will say this: the first season was very much centered, especially the first half of it was very much centered around DJ in that
Mhm.
sense. But then when they started exploring Stephanie, is for me when the show got a lot better because they introduced her that where she can't have kids, and then all of a sudden, no, I want kids, and then Kimmy's able to be their donor. So they do all that where they do what's it like having a surrogate mother, and it just happens to be your sister's best friend, and the baby daddy is her brother. Like, I mean, Full House, yes, on the surface, very cheesy. I will gladly admit that. I love my cheese, even though I can't have it anymore. But when it hits, when it goes for the emotional beats, and when it hits, it hits.
Mhm.
And that's what I've always loved about Full House. Yes, it's cheesy, but they know how to get you.
Yeah. I always loved Full House,
Yeah.
and, I guess, like, that's why I watched Fuller House, and it was one of those moments of, like, I'm watching this, and I know it's cheesy,
Mm,
but I'm enjoying it, but this is really cheesy, and then it was like I didn't watch the 2nd season, and I was like there was no, like, "Oh, I have to watch this, I have to get back into this."
yeah.
It was just like I just happened to not watch it, and then I happened to continually not watch it
And
because there was
the thing
other
about
things
that
to
one though
watch.
is the original when it was first revived, it was the original creator who was the showrunner until he got booted off for Me Too stuff. But
Mm,
I mean, when it started, it was definitely the same team.
yeah.
I wonder if that's why it changed. I wonder if he had that much
Maybe,
into
maybe I can't remember when
And
all
then
that happened, but
it.
another thing that I think with people who are do reboots or just people who step into any franchise, I think that they need to be like legitimate fans
mhm,
to actually do a good job. So like they talk about the showrunners of Cobra Kai, like they joke they're like Karate Kid was their Star Wars. To them, that was their franchise. They were massive fans, and you can tell how stepping into a franchise, whether it's a reboot or a continuation, or whether like you're stepping into Star Wars or the MCU or a DC project, I think that you need to go into it with love and passion for the project because so many times people go into projects because of the monetary reason and then those are the ones that are the shittiest.
yeah,
So I think you need to go in with actual like not oh this is going to make a lot of money. You need to go in because like this character was my character that I grew up with and I just have to tell this story.
yeah. And it's like I'm looking. It's brought up quickly a list of reboots and stuff. Like we've got Dexter coming up.
Mhm.
Like for that one, for me is a little weird because I feel like that's too soon.
Well, that's not really a revival, that's more of a continuation.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
it.
all these are, though. That's essentially
Yeah.
what they all are. Like we're talking, Cobra Kai was a continuation of the first movie, and second, Fuller House is a continuation of the original series. Same with Girl Meets World; they're all continuations.
Yeah.
It's just
The version
with
of Cat.
Dexter, it's a little weird because it does. It feels like, hey, 50.
Hey.
With that one, it feels like it's a little too soon, in my opinion.
I
Yeah, I
think
get it.
I
How
think with
long has
Dexter
that been?
Maybe within the decade.
I've only watched up to season 4 with Dexter, and that's the, John Lithgow
Yeah,
season,
same.
and arguably the best season of Dexter, and, although I've been tasked to finish it so that way I can watch the reboot, but what
Yeah.
I know through just, like, friends and my dad has seen it the whole thing of Dexter and actually, like, read the books and stuff of Dexter. It goes, there the last few seasons, like people said that they weren't very good and they weren't
Mhm.
like the Dexter of the first few seasons, and that uh, a lot of people like me fell off after John Lithgow because that was like the best, and then everything after that wasn't as good. And so I know that the creators of Dexter wanted to kill off Dexter at the very end of that show, and the network was like, no, you can't kill him off. You have to keep him alive for any possibilities of something in the future. So they say that the ending of that show is not very good. A lot of people who watched the whole thing. And so I wonder, like, the people who are going into Dexter, if they're going in money wise or if they're going in because they actually love that show. And so I guess we'll see how it
But also
goes.
the ending was very definite. You know what I mean? We left them off. It was over. Whereas something like Full House was canceled. We never got that resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, if I remember correctly, the finale of Full House.
Yeah, it was a cliffhanger.
How is it a cliffhanger?
Sorry, it wasn't. Sorry, cliffhanger is not. It's the wrong word, but it wasn't an ending. It was a season ending. It wasn't a series ending.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Because,
fair.
like I said, with Dexter, okay, you knew beforehand this was going to be the end of the run. So you had the definite goal. Shows like Full House didn't have that. See, even Boy Meets World didn't have that.
If
If
there was, so if you would take a show that was canceled and you were to do a continuation, reboot, whatever word you want to call it, if you were able to bring it back, which show would you choose?
Well,
you always gotta think for the geek. It's Firefly. That's like kind of.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a cop-out answer.
It is a compound.
And I guess another cop-out answer is Freaks and Geeks. Bring on Sam Levine.
Like, yeah, I like these reboots and stuff. Personally, I never asked for them, so that's why that question is hard for me, because I'm fine with, for the most part, I'm fine with how all the shows I love ended.
There's not one show you wish you could see what comes next.
Okay, there is one, and this is probably what I was thinking of when I said cliffhanger. And I know because of who's involved right now, it is not going to be a popular one. Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman.
Man,
That was canceled.
I got another detail from Campbell because of that, because I don't get this whole thing, but
well, it's because Dean Cain has come out as being a Trump supporter. But anyways, my reason why I want to see how that, at least get a proper wrap up of that, was because it was canceled on a cliffhanger. Literally, the final episode of the series is Lois and Clark open a door and there's a baby right there. That's how it ended.
I forget was it called 10 Things I Hate About You? It was a show, and like it had, I think, 2 seasons. And the last episode of the last season of that show, which I think is the second season, I think it only ran for 2 seasons, is she ends up like having sex with the guy, and they're in their bed, and then the dad opens the door.
Ooh. Okay. That's a little weird. There is another show I was gonna bring up, which I actually just freaking forgot about.
But it basically leaves it there that the dad opened like the door and Kate and then like there's a and then like the season ended and then it got canceled and there was no so you're like, I don't know what ended up happening to these characters.
Yeah. I do hate it when they do that. But here's an example of one where they rebooted the series in a way to completely erase what they did in the final season, is Roseanne. Because I'm sure you all know how the final season ended.
Yeah,
it was a whole fever dream. The whole lottery thing was a fake. Dan's dead.
I absolutely love the first episode about how like they're in bed and he wakes up, he's like, that dream. And I was just like, and I honestly only watched the first episode of the reboot, which
I never got around to it.
Which is now called The Conners, and I will admit that like I did watch Roseanne when it was out, but I don't know. It wasn't one that I was asking and like not one of those that I was like, I gotta watch.
Wrong,
and so like I ended up watching the first episode out of curiosity, and I did really enjoy that. That was funny to me. And then all the stuff that happened with Roseanne, and then it was just like, okay, do I really want to watch this? Okay, now it's going to be called The Conners.
Yeah.
Do I really want to watch this? And so I never actually, like, again, we're in the golden age of television, so there's so much out there to watch, so many streaming services. So if it's not something that I think I'm gonna love, I'm not really gonna spend my time on it.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like you're 100% right. We are in the golden age of television, which is really weird that they're doing all these freaking reboots when there's so many original things out there. But
how about this one? How about when they brought back Will and Grace? Did you guys watch that?
No, I mean I watched Will and Grace when it was originally on. Yeah, but I mean I never really turned around and watching it. I thought that was a weird one too.
I never watched Will and Grace, so to me it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's another one. It's just like, did we really need it?
You know, we didn't need it, and you know, I watched maybe the first few episodes of the revival.
Yeah.
It was probably the most smooth transition from continuing from original to ending, but it felt good. I know that sounds odd, but yeah.
Well, what was it about it for you that felt weird? Because full disclosure, I didn't actually watch it. I just was like, I'm good with it.
And it felt like they ended the series, put everything, the whole set that everyone on it on pause, waiting 10 years, it's new season up and going. But I don't know. It really felt weird to me. I can't explain it.
I will say one that I'm so worried about is Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I am a massive Avatar: The Last Airbender show. That show came out when I was 12.
You're a
and
massive Avatar: The Last Airbender show, eh? You meant fan?
Fan, massive fan. Shut up. It's late.
Hey man, I made my fair share of flubs the last week and a half.
But Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, came out when I was 12. Aang was 12. Then the continuation of that show, Legend of Korra, came out when I was 18. Korra was 17. I was like, this is for me. And then, like, I've read all of the comics associated with Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. And then there's that god-awful M. Night Shyamalan movie, which, like, just shit on everything.
So I hear.
We don't even need to speak of it. It's in the same vein as Dragon Ball Evolution for me.
I'm gonna lie, I actually didn't mind Dragon Ball Evolution just because I've never watched an episode of the show.
Well, yeah, if you watch the show, it's a complete travesty. But so Netflix was going to do a live action remake of the show and make where the episodes originally were 30-minute episodes, really 22 because of commercials on Nickelodeon. They were going to make hour-length Netflix live action with the budget and everything. And Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, the creators of Avatar, was working on the show with Netflix. And so I was just like, that is the only thing that is making me be excited for this show, because the original creators were working on it. But then the original creatives left the project due to creative differences. And now I am so worried about this project. And I'm like, I don't know. I hope they do a good job. I hope they give Avatar the respect it needs. But that's the reboot I am most worried about.
It feels, you know what? It feels like the failed reboot of Lizzie McGuire that we almost had. Because same thing, the original creator was on, but then creative differences, and then lo and behold, and got canceled. Now to transition,
and Lizzie McGuire was my shit. As you saw in Get Sweaty, my number 5 Disney song was from the Lizzie McGuire movie.
And that's another one where it's just past my generation. Like, I am aware of it, but it just missed me.
We're in the same generation, my friend, just past your age group.
Yeah. So I want to transition a little bit, though, into the movie revivals, because we were talking about Avatar and the Last Airbender, and now, for me, I think that's harder to pull off as a movie revival, because at least with a TV series, you have 8 episodes.
Time to flesh it out.
You have time. Whereas a movie, you're trying to recatch something that's 30 years old, and it very rarely works. Example: Dumb and Dumber 2. It had its moments. Don't get me wrong, but
I know, I
it's
know.
really hard to capture the magic of the
To
first one.
recapture the magic, and it's hard because too a lot of these reboots that they're doing were made in a time that is different from now, and so trying to put it in today's time can be very difficult.
Yeah.
So like if there's something that's made in the 80s that is very classically 80s and you try to make it that something that's now, it could be weird.
Now, here's an example of what you just said, but that were worked was the Brady Bunch movie.
Yep.
I never saw that.
Okay, so basically, they took everything that we all remember about the series, which is like it's very hokey, very shucks. They put it in a movie, but they put it in like contemporary times where it's like you got these people acting like they're in the '60s, but it's in the '90s, and that's where the humor comes from, and that worked. It really worked. Now everything else went shit after that, but that first one worked.
I have another one that worked. Another two. 21 and 22 Chapter Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the perfect example. Yeah,
The
perfect.
and one of my favorite parts about 22 Jump Street is the joke that they make at the end of
Yeah,
sequel movies, and then like they were like 23, 24,
yeah.
25 going on and all the different. So I love that they knew where they were and they were making fun of and I think I love satire. So the
Mm,
fact that they were being satirical at the end with that, like one of the movies that like I think is hilarious, and some people are like, "Why do you think that movie's funny?" And it's not a fun. And I was like, "It's a satire," and it's The Death of Stalin. I think that movie, The Death of Stalin, is absolutely hilarious. I think it's still on Netflix. I'm not sure,
never even
but
heard of it.
it is a pure satire, and also you have all of these characters that they just let them use their regular accents. They're not
Mm,
forcing anyone to do a Russian accent. Let me get the cast list of this movie because
yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I saw it in theaters. I was like one of the only people that was in the theater watching it, and I was like, "Oh, and I'm of two minds all the time when that happens. I'm like, I got a theater to myself. I could just relax. And then I'm like,
Mm,
oh, this movie's not making money here."
yeah. That was me during my second show, my second viewing of She's Out of My League. I had the whole theater to myself. That was pretty fun.
Okay,
Um,
what movie revival did it work for you guys?
fuck, there's so many. Well, like I said, Dumb and Dumber 2.
Okay.
Um,
Obviously, again, The Last Airbender and Dragon Ball
yeah,
Evolution,
of course. Yeah.
and the Death Note movie that they did, which there was no
Which, yeah, I heard.
reason to set it in America, in Seattle, and yet they did. And the only good thing about that movie is that they got the character of Ryuk looked like Ryuk from the
Yeah.
manga and from the anime. Ryuk looked really good. Everything else about that movie, trash.
See, the thing is, I don't tend to remember. I don't really remember, for the most part, bad ones. For me, I remember the good ones, and for me, a good one that I love to death is American Reunion.
Oh,
Now
great,
that one is
great
a little
example.
closer in gap between the final one and Reunion, but still, it is a revival of sorts because you got the characters coming back a lot older, and what have you. And I thought for me it worked because it captured everything that made the first one so fun, but you put the spin of, well, they're adults now. Does it, like, you can't think like that. I think for me that's one that works well. I might be in the minority on that one.
No, I'm with you. I forgot about that one.
But back to The Death of Stalin. So it's
Yes.
Steve Buscemi is playing Nikita Khrushchev in
All
that
right.
in that movie, and you think of Steve Buscemi, and you're not first thought, oh, Russian,
Yeah.
but it is a great movie. I love it.
And
I
yes,
think it's
50,
hilarious.
you are right. It does count as movie revivals of TV shows because the very first movie, one of the main characters, spoilers, is the main character from the TV show. It just turns out he's the bad guy.
Who is it? Is it
Uh,
John Boyd?
John Voight.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, his character that he plays is the, I'm not mistaken, the original main character from the show.
Okay.
Again, Death of Stalin, just checked it, is on Netflix in the United States. I'm not sure about Canada for you, but it is in the
And
United
I want
States.
to bring this. Darren just wrote up. We got Mighty Ducks coming back. I'm actually on that boat. I can't wait for it either because that is a revival of an old property.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I'm excited for that. And what I think too is that the Mighty Ducks are going to be the bad guys in that show because of the
I think
way
so
it
too.
sounds. And I think it makes sense. It makes sense of a continuation of that story is
Yeah,
that the Mighty Ducks got so good and so popular, so they became the thing that they hate. That makes sense
they
going
became the
forward.
Yankees.
What was the name of the hockey team that they were against? That was basically what the Mighty
The
Ducks are gonna
Hawks.
be in the show. The Hawks, yeah.
Hawks.
So they're gonna become the Hawks,
And then
and
Iceland. And then
and
Park
then
City.
Iceland. I actually like, I guess again, Ben's hot takes here goes, I enjoy all of those
No,
movies.
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm old enough. I saw the second one in theaters. Yeah. And I still
Um,
watch them, but it's funny going back now as a man who follows hockey quite a bit. I can go, none of that would ever work in a game that is all against the rules.
what do you mean they don't have mental parks in the NHL?
No, but I mean, like, just a lot of the plays they play. Oh, that's offside. Oh, you're gonna get your ass cross-checked during that flying V. There's no way that'd make it past the blue line.
Yeah, just like again going back to like the Karate Kid, the crane technique is not an actual martial arts technique at all,
No.
and you would get your ass kicked if you tried to do
Yeah,
it.
and they even call it out in the third season where it's just like one of the ladies is like, I don't understand what this area's fascination with karate is.
um, yeah. Okay.
Now,
And they how about Castle Map? And they put that castle to revive it.
see,
Will
that
you?
one's tough. That one's tough because you'd have to get the two main stars in the room.
And they managed to pull that off, and I know it's a big if. Would you want that?
Yes, I would watch it, but my hope for it is that they wrap it up properly because the way that series wrapped up was garbage.
100% agree with you.
Did you ever watch
100%.
Castle Soul?
Nope.
It is the first 7 seasons?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, the first 7 seasons were great. Even though once you start to figure out what was going on behind the scenes, you're like, I understand why certain things are like this towards the end. But it was such a well written, good.
And I have to say, they're all hidden gems in the final season.
I blocked that season out of my mind.
A reboot that I'm actually excited for is Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
His series that is coming to Netflix. I've just because I listened to their podcast. Now it's Fat Man Beyond.
Yeah.
Used to be Fat Man on Batman. And just the way that they're talking about it and the love. And obviously, when you listen to a lot of Kevin Smith loves a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like if it's nerdy, he loves it. But he has so much enthusiasm about it, and him and Mark Bernardin have so much enthusiasm about it that I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that one just because I stopped listening to their shows a long time ago. But yeah, I'm actually excited for that one too. And that's another one. That's one where I fall in the same boat as I do with Transformers. That stuff skipped me. I never watched the cartoons. I only know the movie.
Okay, one more revival that really worked for me. The 2017 Power Rangers movie.
Yes, that was one that worked for me as well. How about, did you see that one, Sol?
I did not see that one. No.
Do yourself a favor and actually and watch that.
It is great. I mean,
yeah.
And
Yellow Ranger for life. That,
yeah.
Because like as the girl, you always either had the pink or the yellow, and with me, I stupidly was just like, I'm not gonna like the color pink because everyone expects me to. So that I was like, I'm going to play Daisy in Mario Kart, and I'm going to choose the Yellow Ranger and stuff like that.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
I'm old enough to have had a crush on Kimberly as a little boy.
For you, Matt. Do you have any idea why Brian Cranston was in the movie?
Yeah, because he was voice of some characters in the original show.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's specifically why they targeted him, but I know
No,
it's kind of a nice connective thing.
that's why in the original, Jimmy's name is Princeton.
That is true. That is true. I do want to bring this. 50 ats. What about the Charlie's Angels movies?
I like the first one.
I didn't
I'm
watch.
going to sit this one out because I haven't seen any of them.
I have
I
not
like it.
seen the reboot of it. I've only ever seen Charlie's Angels, and then the second one's Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they replace Bosley, which is so funny in my head. Not only do they recast Bosley, but they also change his race. So he went from being white in the first movie to being black in the second.
Did they ever address that in the movies? Because I mean, it comes off like
Nope.
as in it's like a code name.
Yeah,
I think it's a code name, but they never really addressed it. It was just like, oh, Bosley's not black.
Yeah, pretty much is wiped my hands clear on it. But that's funny. That is one that keeps getting revived. Is the franchise? You've got the original series, and then you've got the two movies with that we you guys were just talking about. There was also an attempted TV show, and then there was also the movie that came out last year. It's just like that's one where it's just like, okay, something's not working here.
Okay, so I went on to IMDb to look at like reboots and revivals. Did anyone know that in 2016 there was a Rush Hour reboot? Because I did not hear about this.
Yeah, I do remember there was a Rush Hour TV show. It didn't last long.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that was a slight preview for Sunday's episode of Get Sweaty.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but that's one where I've heard talks of a fourth movie. I don't want a fourth movie.
I liked it where it ended.
Me too. Yeah.
Speaking of revivals, how about Lethal Weapon? Did anybody watch that show?
Nah.
Nah, I haven't watched the show. And then Hawaii Five-0, my dad watches that, so I guess that one can be considered in the good column.
Yeah, there's Magnum PI that revived. Yeah, we got really, really tan. Touche, 50. Touche. But yeah, no, I mean, like, you had that one. You had Magnum PI. You had, God, what else was there? There were so many others.
Inspector Gadget. Oh, not a movie.
Sorry, what? No, Inspector Gadget. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why am I?
But and what's funny too is that like sometimes there's revivals or reboots of things that you don't even know that they're a reboot until like you do research and you're like, oh, that was a thing that existed a long time ago and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, and like when it comes to remakes, I think that's the approach you should do. Is you should try to remake not something that worked, something that didn't work.
Okay.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I think if you do a remake and you're doing it on something that was a good concept, had a very but didn't work for one reason or another, like for example, like Dune. I'm really excited to see Dune, and I think the Dune movie that came out, they didn't have the technology or really what to do, or wasn't able to make that story come to fruition where it looks like, and I hope, because trailers don't always mean everything, and there's bad trailers doesn't always mean bad movie, and good trailer doesn't always mean good movie, but the trailers look so phenomenal that I think that because they have the technology now to do that type of story, that I'm really hoping, and it's Denis Villeneuve, that it's going to be good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. It's just like Blade Runner 2049 is this example of a long-awaited sequel that didn't make money, but it worked. That's and I'm probably in the camp where I prefer that one over the original.
I think you're not the only one. For me, because again, confession here, I've not seen the original Blade Runner, so I didn't want to see that movie without seeing the original Blade Runner, and so I haven't seen either. It's on my to watch. I wonder, since Darren is in the chat, Darren is Blade Runner part of, because he watches like so many movies a year and is trying to watch movies that he's never seen before. Is Blade Runner one of those? Let me know, Darren, in the chat.
It is a movie that I watched for the first time a couple years ago, but it took like, I want to say 3 viewings before it finally clicked for me.
And there's so many cuts of it too, so you have to
Yeah.
find the right cut because there's the final cut, and then there's this cut and that cut and that
And then
cut.
there's
I
the
think
cut with
there's
the
like
weird voiceover that nobody wanted, and it's like, oh, please don't do that with
yes.
2049. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, and Ash just 50 brings it up. Ash vs. the Evil Dead is another example of a successful revival. Which I haven't seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead personally.
And what's funny too is in my head, I have so many stories that are like book stories that I'm like, to me, it would be like a reboot because it's already implanted in my head to like then see it live, like on TV or a movie. But then I'm like, nope, that's not a reboot. That's just for the first time on the screen.
Yeah.
Goes just because you've read the book doesn't mean anything. So I was like thinking about stuff and I'm like, nope, that wasn't a movie originally. That was a book. That doesn't count for this conversation.
Now, I want to bring up a movie that a lot of people say is a reboot, but it is not. And that is the 2011 version of The Thing. That is not a reboot. That is a prequel.
Yeah.
That is a prequel. But a lot of people call it, oh, it's a reboot. No. That movie ends where the Kurt Russell one begins.
Oh.
Okay, how about interesting?
No, seriously, watch it. It ends right where it begins.
I haven't seen any of them. So
basically, the end of the 2011 reboot is everything happens at the Norwegian camp. A lot of people are dead. They figure out it's in the dog. They get in a helicopter. They chase the dog. And then the movie ends just as it enters into the camp. That's in the 1981 version.
If you pull up Darren's comment, he goes, I've seen both. Sorry. No need to apologize there, Darren. I was just wondering if you've seen it or not because I know that you've been watching a lot of movies.
Now, 50 brings up a good point. Is SCN Live a revival of the Schmoes No Show? No. It's a continuation of anything, but no. I'd say Collider Live, maybe.
I had one and I left it. Yeah.
50 made you laugh, and so you forgot.
Damn it.
50 are international treasure.
Yes. So I'm just going to cut this a little short, if you guys don't mind, because I'm actually starting to feel a little drained. But Sol, thank you very much for joining us. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me at SolGovan on Twitter, at sol.k.govan on Instagram. You can find me typically on Wednesdays for Soul Talk. You can find me on Sundays for Get Sweaty with these wonderful people, and then also 50 down there in the chat.
Yeah,
those
the
are
IT
international.
I get it.
And so yeah, that's where you can find me.
And what about you, Ben?
You can find me here on Get Sweaty every Sunday with these two. I am 50. You can find me every Tuesday right here on Get Sweaty with Matt. Every Friday on Ben's Hot Takes, and every Saturday on the Camping Compass with Matt. And also on Saturday on Matt Slowdown, my Slowdown show on a different YouTube channel.
And when it comes to me, these two have pretty much covered everything I'm on this channel. So I will plug Schmoes of the North, which is my other YouTube channel, where we sit down and we talk about the inner workings of what happened during the week in Schmoedown, and where we also interview people from behind the scenes, in front of the camera, that sort of thing. Right now, we're in the middle of our rookie class preview special, where we have half-hour episodes with different rookies, and we introduce them to the audience. So definitely check those out. Those are going to start rolling out soon because we're doing them all as a mass pre-record. And you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_sax. Man, don't forget to subscribe this channel. There's a lot of good stuff coming down the pike in the past. We've got you all covered, so don't forget to do that. Thank you very much, Sol, for joining us. Folks, we will see you next week. Don't forget, smash cancer.
Smash cancer.
Yes,
Bye.